Okay, and we're back. Didn't recognize that music. It was odd. Okay, we are going to try to get Bob Nichols. We're trying to dial him, and we hope to get hold of him shortly and bring him on. Meanwhile, we are in contact with Dana Durnford up in the wilds of wet British Columbia. Dana, how are you?
Yeah, you got that one right. She's wild, she's wet, she's windy tonight.
Yeah.
She'll be for a couple of days.
And then?
And then it'll keep going till March or April, I guess.
That's what I figured you'd say. Yeah.
It ain't going to get any better.
Yeah.
It's just going to get uglier. And that's okay.
Yoshi will be on tomorrow night. He's traveling tonight. He'll be on tomorrow night, first hour. And for all of you fans, do join us at that time. What's been happening in the last week, Dana?
Well, we've got a lot. We're trying to put the cabin on the boat. We're kind of stuck up here. It's hard to get the welders to do the whole job. And so you're isolated on top of that. And so we're just patiently getting through it, chunks at a time. We got the front piece put on the boat, the cabin, and got the boat back on Saturday. Went to go out and spend a couple of days going out. We're going to go out and look for Discovery Channel got Survivors series going on up the coastline.
You mean, what are they filming something up there?
Right, they got a survival series up there where they got people on the shoreline, and we're going to go up and nose around, see if we can talk to them a bit.
Cause some trouble, I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to stir up a little bit of trouble, and that was the morning after we got the boat back from the well there, and it never rained that night, and the boat was full of water underneath it the next morning before we took off. And so that was destroyed a whole bunch of equipment. I guess the welders messed up down there and left it in a position where the water got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've done a lot of damage. So we're recovering from that for a couple of days, got that almost all sorted out. We're in good shape. Like you say, it takes time to get it done. That steering pin turned out to be a bigger problem. So I sheared off, but we got that resolved. And
now this is a tough boat, Dana.
It is. It is big weather. Yeah, bad weather.
Now, you're putting the cabin on it just to try to keep the weather off you?
Right.
So you're not exposed to the rain and the wind directly?
The fatigue is really something else just from the weather, yeah. And you're going into the heavy stuff, into the big stuff, and you're going to be by yourself, and so it's just, yeah, it was too much. You're soaking wet, and it's bad enough going looking for this damage along the coastline. If people are not familiar with that, I'll remind everybody the basics of it is we're looking at the tidal pools along the coastline of British Columbia because that is the most vulnerable area, as Jeff, of course, covers many times, of the ocean. And a lot of people don't seem to get that part, and so they're looking at, because they're misled, they're taught to look at the tuna and look at the higher mammals and bigger fish, and they bioaccumulate. They're different. Even though, the stuff that's coming out of Fukushima is different, too. It's different than any other reactor ever on this planet. The MOX fuel makes it 2 million times worse. And so these elements were quite devastating to the coastline, folks. Once again, let me remind everybody, the coastline is the nursery of the ocean, and it goes like this. Out of 78 species of sea anemones, we only find 5 so far over the last 60 days, and these are just very few, and we're only finding none of the worms, 480 species of the worms, and there's 6,500 species of the invertebrates. These are like little shrimps, different types of them, 6,500 species. We don't find any of them whatsoever, which is shocking. The insects this summer, nobody cleaned their windshields for insects anywhere on this coastline. Certainly, we've never seen any.
That never varied. 1%. It stayed the same.
Yeah, but 1% to 1% again is all we see of anything, but it's the same 1%. And so a whole lot of species were wiped out, like we covered before. It looks like, for sure, there was a big die-off quite a while back there, in the last couple of years of the sea life on the shoreline, the invertebrates and everything else. And we don't even find their shells. In this entire 60 days, we only found 2 shells of sea urchins. And that, folks, is amazing, because every beach you should find
oodles. You found and 2? Only 2? 2.
Of the empty shells. And so sea urchins, They are one of the all 7 oceans are completely loaded with these things. And what really makes British Columbia, for everybody who don't understand it, I'll remind you one more time, is that British Columbia does not get ice in the wintertime, and so the life is able to accumulate for millenniums, and every square millimeter of the coastline, right up to the high tide line, is just loaded with life. It used to be.
Yeah.
And we have definitively proved that the ocean is not receding itself on top of that, and that life is not crawling up from the deep and repopulating the prime areas. And the prime areas are right at the low and high tide zones. That is the prime area of the ocean. And after that, the colors will change on the water. And what I mean by that is the sunlight penetrates the richest part of the ocean, and the oxygen is getting liberated on the shoreline, that coastline. It's very, very healthy, very
well, it's the wave action always creates it, oxygenates the water.
Right, yeah, that's how it's liberated for the most part as it hits that coastline. It's a massive amount. And that's why it was so much life there. It's just a really wonderful place for anybody to visit. You can go to any tidal pool and expect to find 400, 500, 600 species, up to 600 algae. And you're lucky to find 4 species on a beach of algae. That's inconceivable to a coastline of the Pacific Rim nation. But certainly British Columbia, Canada, on the world market, British Columbia exports have been considered really, really cool because British Columbia doesn't have any nuclear plants on the coastline. We don't have the typical industrial pollution. They do have industrial pollution, don't get me wrong, but it was always considered that way when that was never really true, but it was always seen that way because we do have Hanford. You guys got Hanford down there, and that thing has been hemorrhaging into the ocean.
Absolute catastrophe.
But not like Fukushima.
No.
And the same as Sellafield, right? It's really something else. 4 million liters a day going into the ocean, but it's not like Fukushima, folks.
Fukushima is in a class by itself, totally. And
it's completely unique, and it's totally frightening. If it was just reactor 3, it would be the exact same thing. It's just totally frightening because that reactor is 18 million times worse than Chernobyl. Chernobyl was just normal graphite, folks. It was 1/3 meltdown, 1/3 the size of the reactor. It didn't have any spent fuel pools in it, and it didn't have that constant release into the ocean. It was far away from it. It was very bad. Kofi Annan said there was 3 million permanently disabled children in Ukraine in 2002, and studies have shown up to 1 million people have died from it, and that would mean 18 million would die from just Unit 3. But it's going to be so much worse than that. This entire planet is being annihilated at an unimaginable rate because of the annihilation of the Pacific Ocean itself, which is the breath of this planet. 50% of the oxygen coming out of that ocean sustains amazing amount of life on this planet.
Yeah.
And that was the natural reserves of the planet, how it replenished the natural reserves of the planet. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Radiation levels at Fukushima?
Yes.
100,000% above their previous record high.
Whatever that was.
Whatever that was. No one knows.
If you multiply it, all you can do is scream because you can't pronounce that many letters and words.
That's exactly right.
It's really extraordinary.
And
a lot of people don't get it. Do they?
Well, most people don't get it. It's not in the news, Dana. It's not in the news.
It never will be unless we force it out, and we are. Like, you're doing an amazing job. What you've got done there, you haven't stopped the whole center of your site and the sides of it, and you don't miss a trick, and you don't stop, and so how can people ignore it? They can't, and that's why there's that movement coming. They can't ignore the facts, and then again, the ocean is so articulate and so knowledgeable and so brave to do the things he do. He's very vulnerable.
Well, you're describing yourself, my friend, and listen, what you're doing is... I wouldn't do on a bet, any bet. I just wouldn't. It's just, No, it
doesn't, even right now it doesn't seem logical, but we're doing it anyway. It really
now that's a very interesting statement. Even right now, it doesn't seem logical, but we're doing it anyway. And when you look at this horrible fraud, this farce, Kelp Watch 2014, come on, give me a break.
That was unbelievable. Don't get any kelp in it.
All true.
In your samples, don't get it kelp in.
No, please, you'll contaminate everything. Bob Nichols we're trying to get Bob. If we can't get him, what I want to do is, he had a very, very important article in Veterans Today. I'm going to just read it. It's not very long. It has to do with radiation. And this is Bob's comment on radiation from 2010 to 2014. He writes, high radiation levels exceeded the evacuation level, requiring the wholesale evacuation of civilians at many locations in the United States over the past 4 years, from 2010 to 2014. I'm going to read that again. High radiation levels exceeded the evacuation level, requiring the wholesale evacuation of civilians at many locations in the U.S. over the past 4 years, from 2010 to 2014. Those who remain are supposed to be wearing hazmat suits. Can you spell Ebola? That's a hazmat suit. Did evacuation happen in your town or city? Not a chance. It didn't happen anywhere that I know of. This heavy radiation influx precedes the Fukushima Daiichi Japan 3-reactor meltdowns. Therefore, by definition, it cannot be just strictly from the Fukushima radiation releases, although those are over the top. The killing radiation came from someplace else, plus Fukushima's radiation. This pattern is repeated again and again in cities throughout America. What happened to beautiful zapped America? Certain scuttlebutt in the nuclear community is that America is the most irradiated population in the world. Getting zapped like that leads to shortened lifespans, in the quaint expression of the American Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It means the radiation kills you before your time. This is from greatly increased rates of radiation-induced heart disease, radiation-induced cancers, and hundreds of other radiation-induced illnesses. Today's hazmat suit required and evacuation-level cities include a lot of locations. Notable due to very high radiation levels are the following cities, which should have been evacuated immediately. Billings, Montana, 769 counts per minute. Idaho Falls, Idaho, 488 counts per minute. Rapid City, South Dakota. Grand Junction, Colorado, 465. Colorado Springs, 536. San Diego, 417. Raleigh, North Carolina, 474. You see, there's nowhere to run. You understand? There's nowhere to go. Evacuate, writes Bob Nichols, to where? Evacuation is required by national and international law, with no mechanisms to implement it, other than private funds, i.e. the victim's own money, in most cases. Where the radioactive people are supposed to go is unknown. How to pay for their required health care, also unknown. How to dispose of that many radioactive bodies, unknown. Is Fukushima to blame? The 3 destroyed and melted down reactors are not solely to blame for the nuclear deaths, illnesses, and these as yet undone required evacuations. The current evacuation required cities of Billings, Idaho Falls, Rapid City, Grand Junction, Colorado Springs, San Diego, and Raleigh endured greatly elevated radiation levels before Fukushima happened. The contaminated cities were close to or above evacuation levels 4 years ago, and they still are. They are just higher now because of Fukushima. So we've been living with this for a long time. Although excess radiation is now planet-wide, for people with 2 or more houses in different parts of the country or the world, it is easy to simply move further away from the radioactive contamination hotspots. The vast majority of people, of course, can't do that. Their only solution to the contagion is euphemistically called shelter in place. Shelter in place. People do the best they can with what they have. Everybody gets irradiated by recent or previous radiation releases. Everyone is included. Nobody is left out. Nobody escapes. Those with 2 or more homes may be able to extend their lives a bit, but how much? I don't know. It depends on the individual and the locations. Those who don't own 2 or more houses in safe areas, well, they do the best they can with their shortened life spans. It's not a good situation. He's got charts in the article. You can see the article at Rense.com or Veterans Today. It's all right there. And what Bob is trying to tell us is that we have 103, 104 reactors in these formerly United States, in North America by and large. And they're all leaking. They're all spewing. Now with Fukushima coming in, we're going to be finished off. Done.
Too to tell, yeah. I read that article, really. That's a very good article. And he's not wrong in saying that. And it sounds like, when I read it originally, I took it as like a plea, for goodness sakes. Like, at what point is it too much? Well, we passed that point a long time ago.
We have passed the point of no return. Exactly.
We passed it on to everybody else. It's not just to us. All the countries on the planet that are using this stuff, they got no way of disposing of it. They can't dispose of it. There's every 50 miles in the United States, there's a nuclear holding site. And then what they dumped into the ocean forever and ever and ever, what Russia dumped into it is amazing. What the mob in Italy dumped into it is inconceivable.
Exactly.
What Japan is doing is reprehensible. And they just won't give it up, and they just smile and turn the cheek as if it really is not true. Unfortunately, this is not tenable for much longer, and it's going to be a blowback that we don't want to see. What we want to see is a united planet that moves forward. You know, the jets.
Well, we have to get rid of nuclear power. I mean, it just has to go. It has to go.
One way or the other. Yeah. One way, it can go the easy way or it can go the hard way. It's up to them.
That's
right. They're going to go. There's no doubt about it. They ain't sticking it around. They might as well give it up, pack it in right now. Their pensions are gone. And in a couple of years' time, they'll put children in the face.
Yeah, I think we've got Bob Nichols with us now. Are you there, Mr. Nichols?
Yes, I am. I'm delighted to be on the show.
Well, it's glad to have you on board here, and I want to introduce you to Dana Durnford. Say hello to Bob Nichols, Dana.
I've watched
thank you.
Show.
Hi, Bob. I read your article a couple of days ago.
Oh, thanks,
we figured you threw the towel in, Bob. Good stuff, man. Jeff put it up there. I caught it. And I agree with you. You know, you're just saying what has to be said, and that there's no way back, right? Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
Let me say one more thing about the article here. The peak Billings, Montana radiation level in the last 4 years was 1,087 counts per minute. That was on November 1st, 2012. That's 3.6 times over the mandatory evacuation level and more than 10 times the alert level of 100 counts per minute. Now, we all know what the EPA has done. They've raised the levels of so-called safe exposure by Bob? I think it was 27,000 times higher, the so-called safe level in drinking water. Wasn't that it, Dana?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. Go ahead, Bob. These numbers were 1.4 million counts a day, by the way, folks. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, the stuff that's in the water and on the land and in the air is we pretty well bought the farm years ago, and it's just now catching up with us.
It's in everything. It's in the water, it's in the land, it's in the trees, it's in the agriculture, it's in the animals, it's in us, it's in our grandchildren. It's insanity. It's here.
Everything.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, and it's just numbers. It's just numbers. These guys love numbers. I mean, these things are all dreamed up by numbers. And
1.4 million counts a day.
It's about 2,000 radioactive isotopes extant, as they say today, and all those 2,000 are chasing after us, and they want to kill us.
2,000 different radionuclides, different
They're
ones.
man-made. They're the man-made ones. There's 260 natural ones. Go ahead.
That's on the periodic chart, I guess.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right, yeah.
And 2,000 are man-made. Now, this reminded me very quickly of the insane idea of using nuclear waste to irradiate food to protect us from food spoilage and bad bacteria. You remember that one? They were going to put all of our fruit and our meat and everything through these, all over the country, hundreds of these little buildings where nuclear waste was going to be trucked over the roads, highways, and byways, and they were going to pass all your food through it to make it safe for you. But this is God's truth. And I remember one study done on, I think it was fruit, and in whatever fruit that they passed through this test chamber, it came out with 37 brand new radionuclides that no one had ever heard about or seen before.
Holy crap. It just gets worse.
It does.
All of them just ready to munch on your body.
Yeah.
Well, your body can't tolerate any of them. We don't have any kind of resistance because we've never encountered it in all of our genetic makeup. We don't have any kind of DNA there that says, hey, do this, or that shows up. And we just really don't. And nothing on this planet can live in proximity to it or with harmony within it.
No.
And so what are we going to do? If they don't treat it like the meteorite that it is coming at this planet, and we put all our resources behind it to come, to try to find a way forward, then we're in a lot of trouble, because that's the only option we got. If we could look up and see Fukushima floating around, we wouldn't have no problem getting it. If we could taste it or smell it.
That's
or
really
hear
a
it or
good point, Dana. That's a good
Yeah.
point. If you could see it up there coming at us, getting bigger every day, the people of this planet would demand action.
Yes, sir.
Can't see it, can't feel it, can't touch it.
Well, therefore it doesn't exist. And for the people who have to see something to believe it's there, we're lost. They simply don't believe it, and they will die going to their radioactive graves, still saying, no, it's not there. No,
I just got cancer. I just got cancer from some of his genetics or something. Like my grandfather had cancer, and that's why I got it. No, that just won't face reality. Hold on, gentlemen, and we'll come right back in just a couple minutes as we continue with Dana and Bob. Okay, and welcome back. Talking to Dana Durnford up in British Columbia on his research expedition. Bob Nichols, who has just written another sizzling article about radiation in these formerly United States. Bob was on years ago talking about depleted uranium. Of course, that doesn't exist anymore. That's all gone away. They vacuumed it up over there with large Hoover vacuums all over the Middle East, I guess, Bob. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I often wonder, I'll never know the answer, but I try to think of one major corporation that is bleeding the planet, that is actually seemingly aware of the fact that they're bleeding it to death, and that they're going to change the way they do business, and there aren't any. Now that begs the question, and I'll just throw it out for both of you. Why are these companies knowingly destroying the golden goose? What, do they think they're going to jump in a spaceship and fly off to Mars and be happy? I don't get it. It's weird.
Go ahead, Dana. I have an idea, too.
Well, it's not like you don't know. I mean, you got 1,000 workers in that Fukushima had 10,000 counts a minute inside of them after visiting the plant. You had over 5,000 that were suffering from internal radiation exposure.
Right.
But they use it, and they've done all these tests on animals. Like Dr. Raymond Gilman, he had 84 peer-reviewed studies on beagles, and so they fed them plutonium, little tiny amounts, and within 4 years, 70% of the dogs would die. But they were doing these studies where they'd done 800 pregnant women, and they gave them radiation and told them it was just vitamin drinks. And then they dug them up, and they crushed your bones up and looked for the plutonium and the uranium in the bones without asking the family. And so they have a long history of just mental illnesses and able to switch off any kind of emotion.
Are they human? I mean, it's easy to throw the word psychopath around. I don't think they're human.
No,
not by my definition. Bob, go ahead.
They're humanoid like, or they're like humans. but in terms of a fully competent human, these people are not. They have something missing in their brains, and there's a machine called a PET scan where you can put them under the PET scan, and if they have a conscience or empathy or a complete empathy circuit in their brain where they can actually feel emotion, it lights up like a bright light. But these people do not understand what are called consequences, and that nothing that they do will be of consequence to them because they're perfect. And these perfect people can never do anything wrong. And they really, really don't think that anything they do will have consequence to them. Therefore, consequences don't exist. And what you guys, I say you guys, and most of the planet is talking about, gosh, don't they see? Well, no, they don't. They really don't. All they see is we're going to make a lot of money.
They're above all laws, and they're answerable to no one, and that's just
absolutely right.
That's their world.
Absolutely right. They have no concept of something happening to them because of what they did.
They actually
and that is what is killing us.
To help cover it all up. They actually, like you say, they have the education and the knowledge and the ability and the skills and the talent to really articulate lies. It's just the strangest thing imaginable. And they got all of that so they can tell those lies. They really wanted to do that. They have no issues with that. They have no conscience about that. They have no moral sleepless nights because of it. And they don't sit on the fence about it. They just come and get all this education, all these diplomas and degrees and accolades, and then use it to better the lie, to be more persuasive in their lie, and to get more money, buy really expensive, nice-looking stuff to bling, and get a lie more again. And so, Bob is right. They have no empathy whatsoever. They
just sharpen their insanity. It's like a pencil. They just keep sharpening it. No, nothing's going on.
And there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, they're not sick. There is nothing wrong with them. They're functional human beings. Their brains are broken. And
well, how old is Henry Kissinger? 152 now. They do have certain advantages.
Yeah. They come out and they talk about iodine-131 like it's the most strangest, dangerous thing on the planet. But there's 10 times more iodine-132, and it ionizes and radiates thyroid glands 9 times more effectively. There's 30 times more 133. They don't even mention none of that. And there's
never hear about it.
31 times more iodine-129.
Never
and
hear about it.
That's 15 million year half-life. Won't mention about the 8-day half-life. They won't give it up. Even years after, there's still iodine-131. That was the most dangerous thing. We hear Ken Buesler and Jay Collins, the people that we put our faith into and our trust into, that, and they lie to our children, and our children are deceived by the painted presenters, Yeah. And how do you break that paradigm? We've all tried our best, and nobody stops, but people are really locked into it, and stepping out of that little comfort zone, I guess it's like putting your foot in cold water. It becomes a bit of a shock, and you switch off. You're not going to do it. You're not going to listen to it or get yourself involved.
Well, that's right. It's just it's vitamin D denial.
Yeah.
They just dose up on that.
What we have
fine.
to do to them is simply to remove them from whatever position they're in. They're not fit to make decisions. They're not fit to do anything, and simply have to do it. Now, whether we will do that or not is the question.
Do you honestly see, Bob,
the rest of us?
Right. Do you think the American public, the Canadian public, has it within them anymore to get up off their butts and really do anything, or are they anesthetized into idiocy?
Yep.
Through the media?
The latter.
Oh, I think the idiocy has the upper hand.
Right now it does, yeah.
Well, it does, and I don't see anything happening to change that, which means we're doomed.
The younger people...
If you were to sit down with them, Bob or Jeff could sit down with these people and have a true debate about it, that would be the end of it. They'd be finished. They couldn't deal with one of you guys sitting in front of them. They wouldn't. You would shock, and their children wouldn't be able to look at them again. That's what I see coming. is their friends, their families, their loved ones, and their students will turn on them soon because you can't hide it much longer. Just can't hide this much longer.
David, they can lie like crazy. I mean, they can lie, and the people who want to continue with their life, what you call lifestyles, will continue and believe their lies to their graves.
Absolutely right. No, they will. They'll take it right with them. Hold on, and we'll come right back. One more segment to go with Dana Durnford and Bob Nichols in just a couple of minutes. Okay, welcome back. Now, as you know, Bob, Dana is up on a very rigorous, dangerous expedition to try to document the massive die-off of life in tide pools and in the difference between the high and low tides, the nursery of the ocean along the British Columbia coast. He's got maybe another 100 days to go. They're going to try and make it that long. It's an heroic trip by any measure. Should be a Discovery Channel documentary. Easy. Now, when you come back, Dana, you've got the internet. You've got your legions of followers. You have a tremendous reputation for honesty and integrity. You're going to put it up there. Hopefully I'll be able to share some of that. We'll do what we can to help you with it. That's our... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can send you hard drives in the near future.
Great.
Your own copies, yeah.
Well, wonderful. I appreciate that.
Real high quality stuff, right? So you can do what you want with it. Put it up.
Whatever I can, and
whatever you like. It's yours, like you say. You got a huge audience, and they need to be able to get their hands on high quality images so they can see it for themselves and zoom in and zoom out and zoom around.
Well,
I really appreciate it.
Of course, you're doing wonderful work, and I am so tired, and so is Bob, and so probably are most of you. Wherever you are around the world, I'm sure your governments act pretty much the same as ours. They don't represent your interests. And I'm so tired of watching people in this country chasing the left-right paradigm. It's a lie. It's a complete lie. The only politics that matter are your own. And you might be able to do something at the local level. Forget about national politics. Forget about regional politics. Even forget about state politics. Everybody's bought and sold now. You must lead by example, like Dana is doing, like Bob does as a journalist, and like many of you do in your own lives. We are not going to get help from the government. Period. We're going to get lied to. We're ultimately going to be put to death by them, directly or indirectly. Look at the lies and the bumbling ineptitude in this Ebola thing. Utter incompetence everywhere you look. God help us if it were a real fast-moving virus. Fortunately, it's slow and apparently rather difficult to transmit. But, Bob, what would you suggest to people who want to try to do something, try to help their friends and are tired of being accused of being a nut or losing friends, or marriages have been destroyed by the truth?
Oh, the truth's a horrible thing. Truth is just really ghastly. And people will avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
So when somebody in your family or a close friend is thinking that you're a nut, what you have to do is to figure out how to, day after day or week after week, keep suggesting to them and to encourage them. And then when they look at you with that blank, stupid look, you just say, or you just know, well, gosh. And what I suggest to you, unhappily, is move on.
No, you have to. When you hear the door shut, you got to go next. Next.
Go next and keep on going and keep going through as many people as it takes until you find that one person or two or three, if you're really fortunate, four, and then you have the core, you have you have a group that you can work with. You have a group of two or more that see eye to eye, and you have to have that. Otherwise, it's just futile. and stop wasting your time. Move on.
I like to use YouTube videos. There's so many good ones out there now. And if you've got somebody who you haven't given up on yet, just tell them, hey, listen, I really respect your opinion. We may not agree on everything, but I've looked at this video and I don't understand it. Will you look at it with me? It's 4 minutes long. Just look at it, or look at it and I want to know what you think of it. And at least they'll look at it if they'll do you that favor. And then you got them. You can talk to them and slowly maybe bring them toward the correct direction. But it's not easy. Generally speaking, what Bob said and what I've said for years, and I'm sure Dana has too, when you run into a brick wall, you change directions. You don't keep hitting your head against it. So it's hard, and it's discouraging because you got people you really care about in life who just don't want to hear it. And that's fine. That's who they are, and you got to respect that. You got to go on to the next one. And then some people get to the point where they don't want to go on to the next one anymore. They're tired of it. And I honestly can't blame them. The younger people now are less mentally competent than their parents, whom I consider to be much less mentally competent as a group than my group. And I think most of you would agree with that. It's getting worse by design every year. Dana, another comment or two from you. We're running short on time here.
You bet. My take is those who are in the know, those who have some knowledge and have been put down by their loved ones and their friends and their families, in the near future they will come back to you and they won't remember putting you down, but they'll remember that you had some knowledge, and that'll be your time to shine, and that'll be your time for vindication. But it's a sad vindication, but nevertheless, it's an opportunity to give an opportunity to make a decision based upon factual information, and at least to give them a way to see another narrative, right? And
that's
so that's
really
what you got, that's what everybody else got.
Very nicely said, that they'll come back to you, and they will in some cases. That's very nice.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and we are ultimately teachers, journalists, researchers, writers. We care. And that's all we can do is be there ultimately when we're asked. Trying to convert somebody often has a negative repercussion almost immediately, and you've got to be very stealthy about some of these people. So, I don't know. It's just asking them if they'll look at a video. Sometimes that'll help.
That's a good idea. I like it. Jeff, that's a good one.
It's simple.
Make them think that they might be smarter than you, and they're willing to do anything. Yeah,
there you go.
That's true. I do that.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
Once again, the pictures we're going to take, and people like yourself that don't stop, and people like Bob, who's so articulate, and Yoshi, who will never let go of this, and rightly so. It's up to us. Like I said earlier, it's not up to anybody else, it's up to you. If you feel that you're empowered and you feel that you have the ability to try, the onus is on you. You're obligated as a human on this planet to try for that other 8.8 million species.
Right.
Not to mention all your loved ones and everybody else. Yeah.
Exactly right. Bob, what do you want to write about next?
Oh, I'm going to write about the health statistics that are changing, and how all the health data, what do you call it, the diseases going up. And it's not new exotic ones like Ebola, that's 50 years old, that it is the old diseases.
They're coming back.
Things like whooping cough and polio, because as a herd, what you call a herd, us, our immunities are going down. Our herd immunity is diminishing. That's a result of
tell us why.
radioactivity, and it's in all of us, and it slowly, ever so slowly, lowers the immunities, and then the old-time diseases are the ones that come back to grab us.
As the adjunct to that, we have no southern border, and those diseases in their raging fertility are being carried by foot right across the border and put into our classrooms with our children, whose immunities are being lowered by the radiation in their environment. You're right. So they're getting a fresh inoculation of some of these old diseases, and they're getting sick. And it's not pretty. Not pretty. Okay, Bob, thank you so much for being here. Any final comment? I'm going to say goodnight. We got just a couple minutes left.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, Bob, thank you.
It's been great.
Come on. Always. We'll talk again. Don't wait so long. Let me know. Okay, take care.
Hey, Bob. Take care.
Have a good day.
Thanks. And Mr. D, you
Thank you.
get that roof on the boat. I worry about you up there. I don't.
Thank you, Jeff. I know you do. You do so. I know. I appreciate all you've done, man. It's non-stop, I know, and like you say, you're a big push for us. Have been right from the very beginning. That ain't going to change. The hounds of Fukushima, the Fukushima hounds, and my supporters, we ain't going to give it up. We ain't stopping. There's nothing stopping us. Nothing stopping you. Nothing stopping us. We're going to get the job done. It'll be slow and methodical, but we'll get it done. And we'll be back on the go Saturday, folks. And I thank you, Jeff, and everybody else for your support.
All right. Get some rest, my friend. You take care.
I will. Thank you, Jeff. Good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night. All right. There he goes, Dana Durnford. And do click on Dana's name. Go to his website. He is producing some extraordinarily clear, vibrant data that is just irrefutable. It's graphic, it's glaring, and it shows what's happening. Now, I'm not here to tell you that the whole Pacific coast is going to die overnight. No, it's a process. And it's a process that is immutable and irrefutable. And when you see, as I've been posting, the results, cesium all the way up and down the coast, just remember, there are over 2,000 other radionuclides that are man-made that are resultant of Fukushima and other radioactive accidents that are being injected into the atmosphere all the time, constantly, 24/7. What's a safe level of exposure to any radiation, including X-rays? 0. There's your answer. Okay, we thank you for being here tonight. It's been a very busy night. We'll be back tomorrow night on Tuesday with Yoichi Shimatsu tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then and learn some more. Take care. Thanks so much for being here. Talk to you.